This city should never have existed. Nothing about its story makes logical sense. It is a nation built on a tiny island with almost no natural resources. No significant rivers for fresh water. No vast farmlands to feed its people. No mineral wealth buried beneath its soil. By all conventional measures, it should be a minor port, a forgotten colonial outpost left behind by the tides of empire. Instead, it became one of the most extraordinary cities on the planet. Wealthy, futuristic. This improbable metropolis seems to defy gravity, logic, and the rules of urban development. It is a spectacular paradox, gleaming under the tropical sun. How did this happen? How did a place with so few advantages engineer one of the greatest success stories in modern history? The answer is not found in the gleaming skyscrapers, or the luxurious hotels that dominate its world-famous skyline. The real story is far more complex, hidden from plain sight. To understand Singapore, look beyond the surface, beyond the postcard images of infinity pools, super trees. Peel back the layers of the city one by one until you discover the invisible systems that keep it alive. Underground pipes and tunnels, water treatment and reservoirs, power stations and the grid, food logistics and ports. This is not just a city, it is a meticulously designed machine for survival. The scale of this achievement is staggering. Imagine building a global financial hub on land smaller than New York City. Now imagine doing it while importing nearly all of your food, importing nearly all of your energy, importing even the sand used to expand your territory. It sounds impossible, like science fiction. Yet, for Singapore, this is daily reality. The city's existence is a testament to human ingenuity and relentless planning. But this grand experiment is more fragile than it appears. What happens when the systems that support millions are pushed to their absolute limit? What most people never realize, this entire city is a carefully constructed illusion. The lush greenery, the clean streets, the seamless efficiency, all products of a hidden architecture. An unseen engine beneath the concrete and glass. Every detail, from the water flowing from a tap to the cool air in a skyscraper, is part of a grand, interconnected design. So, what is this hidden engine? What secrets does it hold about the future of cities? The search for that answer changes everything you think you know about this remarkable place on Earth. At first glance, Singapore is a spectacle of modern architecture. It is a vertical city of glass towers and futuristic gardens, a testament to what money and ambition can build. But the most impressive structures in Singapore are not the ones you can see. The true genius of this city lies in its unseen blueprint, a master plan that operates on a scale difficult to comprehend. This blueprint is not just about buildings and roads, it is about managing every single resource with near-perfect precision. It's a system designed to solve problems that would cripple most other nations, turning weaknesses into strengths through sheer force of will and engineering. Consider this. Nearly a quarter of Singapore is built on land that didn't exist a few decades ago. It was pulled from the sea, one grain of sand at a time. This process, known as land reclamation, is a core part of the city's DNA. It is a constant battle against the constraints of nature, a refusal to accept the geographical hand it was dealt. This relentless expansion is not just for creating more space for buildings. It is a strategic move to secure the nation's future. But creating new land is only the beginning of the story. The real challenge is what you do with it and how you sustain life upon it. The city's port is a perfect example of this hidden order. It is one of the busiest in the world, a non-stop ballet of colossal ships and automated cranes. Thousands of containers move through it every hour, a torrent of global trade that powers the economy. This logistical masterpiece does not happen by accident. It is the result of decades of planning and investment in systems that optimize every movement, every transaction, every square meter of space. This same philosophy of optimization is applied to everything in Singapore, from its public housing estates to its world-renowned public transport network. It is a city obsessed with efficiency, but as you look closer, you begin to see the true scale of the invisible infrastructure. Beneath the immaculate streets lies a complex web of tunnels, pipes, and cables, a subterranean world that delivers water, power, and data. It is the city's lifeblood, a secret circulatory system that makes everything on the surface possible. It is a world of deep tunnel sewerage systems, underground power grids, and automated waste collection networks. And it gets even more unbelievable. The real reason Singapore works is stranger and more deeply engineered than almost anyone can imagine. To understand the Singapore of today, you must first travel back to a time when its future was anything but certain. In the mid-20th century, Singapore was not a gleaming metropolis, but a humid, crowded port city. It was a small island cast adrift from its neighbors, a newly independent nation facing insurmountable odds. Stripped of its colonial purpose, separated from its Malaysian hinterland, the island was left with virtually nothing. No oil, no timber, no vast agricultural land, a swampy island, a natural deep-water harbor, a determined yet divided population. The challenges were stark and immediate: mass unemployment, severe housing shortages, simmering social tensions among its diverse ethnic groups. Its very survival was in question. Leaders at the time spoke not of prosperity, but of a crisis of survival. The island's water supply was almost entirely dependent on its neighbor, Malaysia. This precarious position forced a fundamental shift in thinking. If Singapore could not rely on the gifts of nature, it would have to rely on something else entirely: the ingenuity and resilience of its own people. This was the moment the city's improbable journey truly began. Looking at archival maps from this era, Singapore seems impossibly small, a fragile speck of land vulnerable from every direction. Its early port, while bustling, was a chaotic scene of manual labor, a world away from the automated efficiency of today. The first engineers and planners were not designing grand monuments. They were fighting for basic necessities: provide clean water, build simple homes, create jobs for a desperate population. Every decision was weighed against the stark reality of the island's limitations. It was a high-stakes gamble with no guarantee of success, a desperate attempt to build a nation from scratch. This foundational struggle forged the city's character. The constant awareness of scarcity and vulnerability became the driving force behind its obsession with planning, efficiency, long-term thinking. The early leaders understood that, to survive, Singapore had to make itself indispensable to the world. It had to offer something that no one else could. It couldn't compete on size or natural wealth, so it had to compete on intelligence, order, reliability. This mindset, born from desperation, would eventually lead to some of the most radical and ambitious urban solutions ever attempted. But that's only part of the story. A much bolder strategy was about to be put into motion. With no land to farm and no minerals to mine, Singapore's founding leaders made a momentous wager. They decided to invest everything they had in their only resource: their people. This was not just a political slogan, it became the central pillar of the nation's development strategy. The plan was audacious: to transform a population of traders, laborers, immigrants into one of the most educated and skilled workforces on the planet. This focus on human capital was a radical departure from conventional models. While other nations focused on agriculture or industrial manufacturing, Singapore built a future based on brains, not brawn. The first step was a public housing system that did more than provide roofs. The iconic Housing and Development Board flats were conceived as a tool for nation building. By giving citizens a stake through home ownership, the government aimed to foster stability and shared destiny. These high-rise blocks would house over 80% of the population and were designed with meticulous care. They integrated communities, provided clean, safe living environments, and laid the physical and social foundation for a modern society. It was a massive social engineering project to build cohesion from a fractured populace. Simultaneously, the government poured resources into education and healthcare, creating systems that were accessible and world-class. The goal: ensure every citizen, regardless of background, had the opportunity to succeed. English was established as the common language of business and administration, a pragmatic bridge to the global economy. That bridge allowed Singapore to attract multinational corporations and position itself as a hub for international trade and finance. Every policy was a calculated move to overcome physical disadvantages by maximizing human potential. This relentless focus on people had a profound effect. It transformed Singapore from a regional trading post into a global hub for knowledge and innovation. The government actively courted foreign investment, promising a stable, corruption-free environment and a highly disciplined workforce. Companies from around the world flocked to the city-state, bringing technology, expertise, and capital. That influx created a virtuous cycle. It generated jobs, funded further social development, and reinforced Singapore's reputation as a reliable and efficient place to operate. The wager on its people was beginning to pay off, but to sustain this growth, the city first had to tame its own chaotic environment. The Singapore of the 1960s was a city of stark contrasts. Alongside the colonial architecture and commercial districts, there were sprawling slums and polluted waterways. The Singapore River, the historic heart of the city, was effectively an open sewer, choked with waste from the hundreds of boats, shophouses, and small industries that lined its banks. The air was thick with the smells of refuse and industry. This was the raw, untamed reality that the nation's first planners had to confront. To build a modern economy and attract global talent, Singapore first had to undergo a radical transformation. It had to clean up its own backyard. One of the first and most symbolic campaigns was the cleanup of the Singapore River. 1977 to 1987, a decade-long, monumental effort to relocate thousands of squatters, street hawkers, and pollutive industries. The river was dredged, its banks were rebuilt, and the sources of pollution were systematically eliminated. It was a painful and socially disruptive process, but it was deemed essential for the nation's future. What was once a symbol of urban decay was slowly transformed into the pristine waterway that flows through the heart of the city today. This project was a powerful statement of intent, a demonstration that Singapore could and would impose order on chaos through sheer political will. This philosophy of control extended to every aspect of urban life. The government launched campaigns to promote hygiene, courtesy, and civic responsibility. Strict laws against littering and spitting were introduced and rigorously enforced. The goal was to create a clean, green, and orderly environment that would not only improve the quality of life for citizens, but also project an image of discipline and modernity to the world. This obsession with cleanliness became a national trademark. What outsiders often see as a rigid top-down system was, for Singapore, a fundamental tool for survival and progress. It was about creating a predictable and reliable environment in an unpredictable world. This drive for order laid the groundwork for the city's future ambitions. By tackling the immediate problems of housing, sanitation, and social cohesion, Singapore's leaders created a stable platform from which to launch even more audacious projects. The cleanup of the river was just the beginning. The next step would involve reshaping the very land itself, pushing back the sea to create new territory from nothing. The early struggles had instilled a belief that no problem was too big to solve with enough planning, engineering, and determination. This mindset would soon be put to the ultimate test, as the city prepared to rewrite its own coastline. In the end, Singapore's most remarkable creation is not its reclaimed land or its purified water. It is the idea of Singapore itself. It is the belief that human ingenuity, when applied with discipline and long-term vision, can overcome even the most fundamental limitations of nature. This city is a living testament to the power of systems thinking, a place where every component is part of a larger, integrated whole. Storm drain, housing block, transport network. It is a concept made real, a blueprint for survival and prosperity, built on intellectual rigor and sheer willpower, willed into existence through the power of an idea. More than a travel destination, a lesson in urban possibility, dense yet livable, highly regulated yet prosperous, artificial yet green. It challenges the idea that growth must mean chaos and decay, A city of rules that is actually a city of solutions. The invisible systems here are answers for other cities about water, food, energy, space. Singapore isn't remarkable because of what you see. Gleaming towers, lush gardens, seamless efficiency. Remarkable because of what you don't see. Invisible web of systems, unseen architecture of order, relentless intellectual effort, the quiet hidden engine beneath the streets, built of foresight and planning. Look closer next time you see a picture. Beyond infinity pools, beyond the super trees, clean streets as giant water catchment, high-rise apartments as the foundation of a nation's social contract, effortless traffic as data-driven choreography. Everything you see is evidence of what you can't. An invisible city, a hidden machine, a bold idea still unfolding. This is the truth beneath the city, the secret to how a tiny red dot on the map became a beacon for the future.